Hi guys, welcome back to The Work Within. I'm Diamond Simons.
And I'm Samia Iman.
If you are new to our channel,
welcome. And if you're already a part of our growing family,
welcome.
We're so glad that you're here. So today we would have normally continued on with our Getting Back to You series where we would have talked about regaining your confidence. But I feel like in the light of the things that are going on right now, it only makes sense for us to have that conversation about the protest, the Black Lives Matter movement, our personal stories, and that's what we're going to share with you today. And if you want to see that, stick with us. Okay. So there has been a lot of ideas about this movement, and let's be clear, it is a movement. And, you know, there's people out there, Candace Owens for one, who states that, you know, George Floyd is not a martyr for the movement. And I want to make something clear to everyone that I don't think anyone's making George Floyd the martyr for this movement, but let's be clear that he is
a victim,
one of the many victims, and he is also the tipping point for which this country has decided to come together and realize that there needs to be radical systemic change in this country in order for us to move forward. And that's what the protests are about.
Yeah. So it's not that we're like putting him on a pedestal saying that he was some sort of God and
right.
You know, the world is all about him and he's an angel and he should be protected and all that kind of stuff. But it's more so, when is this going to end? We have another victim.
And truthfully, like, if we're being frank, because not only are our Black men being killed by the police, our Black women are being killed too. And so that essentially tells me that if we don't put any type of accountability or systems in place to protect us, how do I know the next victim is not going to be me?
Right.
How do we know that it's not going to be Diamond?
Right.
You know, like my sister, my brother, you know, we've had our share of confrontations. We've had our shares of issues with people who don't look like us in the community. And, you know, it's just, there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of ignorant statements being made at this time. And I understand, like, I'm for free speech. You have the right to say whatever you have to say, but I have the right to disagree.
Right.
Just to point out a situation or a conversation I had with someone. I don't know if he wants to be mentioned, so I won't mention his name. But he was telling me about a situation or a conversation he was having with a person who pretty much justifies the police's reactions to these protests based off of one situation that they had with a couple of Black guys. And in that statement, it's like you are vilifying an entire community, an entire culture based off of your one experience with a couple of people. And that's not okay. And I was like, and in the same light, if we were to use that conversation as a basis of how to think, then I for sure should hate all white people. Absolutely. Because I had a situation where my brother and I were chased down the street by a group of white men yelling at us to go back to Africa, even though we're from Kansas and we grew up in Dallas. Like, I have not stepped foot in Africa at one point in time, but that situation, according to this other person's logic, I should hate all white people, but I don't.
And even that statement in itself doesn't make sense because we didn't choose to come here from Africa. Our ancestors didn't choose that life.
Right. Exactly. And, you know, and I feel like, just like in the last video that we did on the book Blood and Tears, now is not the time to be divided. now is the time for us all to come together, black, white, others. And let me tell you, I am brought to tears by all the shows of solidarity and support from around the world. Because they see that things need to change. They see that it's not right. I was like, how many times does another person have to be killed and broadcasted across TV for people to understand that something is completely wrong in this country? At what point did we actually tell police you have the right to murder without consequence? When did that become a thing? And how come more people aren't stepping up to say no more? You know, and I'm grateful for these protests. We're actually going to go to a protest, and I'm really excited about it. Here in Las Vegas, the protests have been pretty peaceful. But also I feel like the relations with the police department here is a lot better than it is in other parts of the country. And so I'm grateful for that. But at the end of the day, I'd still go. Regardless, because we need to step up, we need to stand up, and we need to show the world that we are tired. And we are tired. We're so tired. I'm tired of having to defend my culture, my race, all of my life. And that,
see, I'm sorry. What?
I was gonna say, that's not an exaggeration, because I was called the activist in middle school. So it is definitely not an exaggeration by any terms.
Yeah, and see, I was one to try to bury it and say, well, it was the past, let's move past it. Let's get over it, let's move on, let's pretend like it didn't happen and just focus on a better, brighter future. But that's kind of hard to do when we're still technically living in the past.
Yeah.
It's just on the down low. And then now everything's coming to the forefront because everybody has a camera phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everyone has a camera phone. And then also, our lovely President Trump has emboldened the covert racists to pretty much be emboldened with their views and their statements.
To come out and show their rear ends.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so now we are definitely a divided country. And it's like, but, you know, like, it's got to change. It's got to stop. We are all humans, and everyone's life is valuable. I don't care what their history is. I don't care what they did yesterday. That does not give anybody any right to kill them. Point blank. And that's it. Like, I don't even know what else to say about that. Like, it's not okay.
Like, it's crazy to me that we are all humans. You know what I mean? We are all, yeah, everybody has different cultures and beliefs and religions, whatever. But just because someone looks different than you, all of a sudden they're this animal, intimidating creature, whatever we've been portrayed as. That's complete BS.
Absolutely.
Like, you can go to China and you see all these Asian people and their culture. That doesn't mean they're any lesser or more than you.
Yep.
You can go to South America and see all these exotic, beautiful Brazilian women and men or whatever. That doesn't mean they're any better or lesser than you.
Absolutely.
Africa, not better or lesser than you.
Absolutely.
White people, Britain, I don't know, UK, wherever. We're all the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just all look different. So just because we got the darker skin or whatever, or different texture of hair, doesn't mean we're any lesser or more. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then on top of that too, like, for the people who believe that we just need to get over it, obviously you probably don't pay attention to the same things that we pay attention to. But the issue is that you cannot tell a marginalized group of people to stop thinking about being marginalized when it's happening to them every day, based on the conditioning that you get from your mainstream media. Because if you don't think that they are actually out here to condition you and control your mind to make you believe things that are absolutely not true, or make you believe that black people are angry, make you believe that black people are a threat to you even though we're not. I was
or
like,
violent.
yes. I was like, anytime that I've ever gone to and I mean, I guess I can't really say because I'm black, but I'm like, from what I've seen in my culture, we are the most opening and welcoming culture. You know, like, we have a cookout, come on. You know, we don't care. Yeah, I can't cook.
Everybody,
but you can cook.
everybody is invited to grandma's house.
Yes.
Grandma's like, come on, tell your friends, bring them all.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter.
Whose baby is you? You know? And exactly.
But if the roles were reversed.
Yeah, it's
and
a different
I
story.
could speak, okay, I do have some personal stories on that, and I don't want to, you know, make anyone uncomfortable that I know, but there was a time where I dated a lot of white men. Mm-hmm. And there have been uncomfortable situations where you go into a house full of people and they're just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean,
yeah,
awkward, you know?
Absolutely.
Not very welcoming.
Absolutely. You know, but you know, we've been conditioned with this idea of equality, and then we're told that we should be grateful for where we are right now. And I was like, but until you actually stop mass incarcerating our people for crimes that you're not mass incarcerating other cultures for, then no, I will not stop thinking about it. I will not stop talking about it, and I will not stop speaking out about it. I have silenced myself for a really long time because I thought that, you know, in order to have peace in my life, maybe I should just, you know, turn a blind eye for a little while. But it's so hard to do when you see it, and it's overwhelming. And, you know, and ultimately, where I have my voice and where I have my passion is in my Black community. And I cannot rest if I am not speaking out for us. Point blank. And, you know, and if we want to talk about histories, you know, as people have said about some of our Black sisters and brothers who have been killed over the many years, we'll say since the Civil Rights Movement, because that's where people feel like we should stop thinking about it, because we have equality since the Civil Rights Movement, even though we have a perceived idea of equality, and it's just perceived. It's not true, because there's, like we've said before, there's systematic racism that is embedded and ingrained in every fabric of our society. And until that is removed, there's no way that we can say that we are equal, because in order to maintain this type of society, in order to maintain a capitalist society, you must have a marginalized group of people. Unfortunately, with a capitalized society, it's more the rich versus the poor, but in the same way, you still have racism set up in the system to where you can marginalize groups of people. And if we start going back into history, this stuff has been going on, just like Diamond said. The difference now is that we have phones and we can catch it. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying not to get on too much of a soapbox here, but I just want to say, first and foremost, about that elderly man that the cops pushed down in New York. That is unacceptable. And those people who pushed him down, those cops that pushed him down and then stepped over him as he was bleeding out on the ground, should absolutely be held accountable for that. And those other 50 cops who resigned because they were following orders, y'all should be held accountable too. Because at what point do you stop following orders and do you start actually acting in a humane way? Mm-hmm. Why did no one stop and say, this man is bleeding, let's get him to a hospital? You know, like, why?
They just said, get the medic.
Yeah, and how is that okay? You know, and I don't care if your job was to push people back in the crowd or whatever. This is an elderly man, and an elderly white man at that. And I'm like, and the people out there who are justifying, like, well, maybe he was going for the gun. You can clearly see in the video that he was not. So stop with that propaganda right now.
You know what? I have seen some disgusting things over this last few weeks. Mm-hmm. And I have seen people that I would have never thought to be in that criteria of racist or what's another term? Racist or just unsentimental to people, basically, but they're showing their butts. I mean, they are really coming out and have me like, excuse me? What? Yeah. Why would you say something like that? Yeah. You know? And I mean, even on Facebook, I mean, I really don't care about, you know, who's my friend or whatever on social media, but people are unfriending me on social media because they don't like what I have to say, or sharing something that Malcolm X said, or whatever the case may be. I'm just like, wow, you guys are really showing your behinds.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you know, the truth of the matter is that until there is change, we will not stop. We will keep going. And no matter what you do, the movement's just going to get bigger and bigger. And I do want to say thank you to all of the allies, the non-black people who are showing up at these protests and are being peaceful. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking to the looters or the agitators who are out there trying to make matters worse. But the people who are showing up and being peaceful and supporting our movement here and across the entire world, I want to say thank you. I appreciate you. My heart is filled with joy for people like you who understand that things need to change, and they need to change right now. So the last thing that I want to say to all of my people out there, and I'm speaking to humanity as a whole, because I am a person of the people, not only just a black woman and a person of my culture and my people, but of everyone in general. Go make sure you go and vote. If you're here in Vegas, your mail-in ballots have to be mailed in by the 9th. So make sure that you do that. And make sure you actually look at the candidates that are running for these different positions, because as I said before on my social media, change starts at home. Mm-hmm. And so we need to make sure that we're putting people in office who have our best interests at heart. And get these old capitalist people out of office. Tell them it's time to retire. And I'll leave that at that. I can't say what our video will be next week. We'll kind of have to see how it goes, because depending on what's happening will depend on the content that we provide you. But we love you all, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, guys.